for loan officers, that is probably one of their biggest challenges, because they always say, well, here's my branding box that I have for my company. That's not your branding box. You are your branding. And so I think first and foremost, whatever your name is, I mean, it could be Peter Paul, whatever.
That would be a cool name.
Could be a cool name. And if you don't have a cool name, it's like, whatever, it's like, make it a cool name. But I think the most important thing is make sure and include your name. I cannot tell you how many videos I've watched on YouTube where there is no mention of the person's name.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Mortgage Influencers, where we bring you professionals who share insight into the latest trends, tips, industry technology, and services to help you be a mortgage influencer in your mortgage business.
It will be an exhibition in improv.
And we are live. Welcome to the next episode of Mortgage Influencers. Hello, everyone. My name is Ginger Bell. I have my friends Steve Richmond and Scott Schang, or now to be known as Scooter, I guess.
Scooter, baby.
No, we're not going to start that. We're not going to start that. Better than Scotty Potty, I guess.
I'm not even going to ask about that one.
You say it once and then it's going to stick.
Oh, so let's talk about that. Actually, I think that's a good segue into some conversation. So we don't have a guest today. And that's bad on me, because normally I'm the person that's inviting guests. So you have the three of us. And it's like having that as far as, conversation about what are the things you can do right now? And I think that's a lot of it. Steve, you do a lot of public speaking out in the market. Scott, you are slaying it on your podcasts that you're doing. And so, what I wanted to do is really just have a conversation is, here we are at the end of May and coming into the 1st of June, which is homeownership month, right?
Bum, bum,
Bum. Yep. So, what are the things as a loan originator that they should be doing right now in order to stay noticed? And as you said, Steve, once you say it, it sticks. And so what are the things that we can do that stick? Loaded question. Steve, I'll start with you.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying we're going to talk about those things. I didn't.
We are going to talk about those things. You've been. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that, right? So I was thinking, as we talked about Scooter and all that, seriously though, how important is that tagline? How important is that little phrase, is that name? Because what I find is, when you get a name like Ginger Bell, you don't need a cool name to stick, because it's already there, right? You don't have to become So, I make some jokes about my name here and there, but you really know that there are some people that are out there that, Blake Boss, right? He's taking the world over at Active Comply, and everybody's paying attention to the guy, and it's just a cool name. Is it important to have that tagline to make it stick, or is it just like, hey, I can just be Scott and that's all I need?
It's like Adele.
Right. What do you think?
I think that, listen, I think if it's part of your personality that you go by nicknames, because people who carry nicknames, I think a lot of times they embody those nicknames. And if it's descriptive, or if it's genuine, or if it's part of you, because when I think of nicknames, it's kind of fun and it's intimate. Right? You don't usually call people nicknames unless there's some sort of intimacy, or somebody knows you. So I like the idea if it's genuine. I like the idea if it's who you are, and if you carry that on your sleeve. Even having titles like Ginger, what was your what the email that you sent out today with the spotlight video for one of your clients? was it Mortgage Monsters or something like that?
Yeah,
That
Mark.
it doesn't have to be scary. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's really cool. I think that's I think that's interesting, and I think that's cool. And, you know, in some senses, you're playing a part when you take on a name. And I think if that's your personality and if that's your character, I think it's I mean, I think it's a cool thing to do. It definitely makes it easier to remember, you know, even if it's a little silly, you know. I think it
Well,
makes
it's
it
funny
easier to
'cause
remember.
in my world, when I was working for the MI company, I was that MI guy, right? I mean, that was the moniker that I took because I wanted it about MI, not necessarily about me. And to this day, I have people that do not know my name, but they're like, hey, you're that MI guy, right?
But they know you.
Right. And so now I have on all my taglines, on all my correspondence, it's a no coffee needed production. Because that's what I always say on my presentations. I've never had a cup of coffee a day in my life. I'm high energy. I'm already pumped up. So I do that. And people will always talk about being memorable. It's not, I got great rates and I give great customer service. But they all remember, oh, you're that no coffee guy or something like that. It gives that one little thing. And it goes back. See, Ginger, I'm not blowing you off when I said that. You said, what are the things that stick and that can be memorable? And I think if you have that little phrase or something like that, it can go a long way.
So really, it's not just a name as much as it is the tagline.
Right.
And so, and I mean, that unpacks the whole thing as far as branding. And I think, you know, for loan officers, that is probably one of their biggest challenges, because they always say, well, here's my branding box that I have for my company. That's not your branding box. You are your branding. And so I think first and foremost, whatever your name is, I mean, you know, it could be Peter Paul, whatever.
That would be a cool name.
Could be a cool name. And even if you don't have a cool name, it's like, whatever, it's like, make it a cool name. But I think the most important thing is make sure and include your name. I cannot tell you how many videos I've watched on YouTube where there is no mention of the person's name. There's no mention of how to get in touch with them. There's no mention in anything. So I think, you know, in terms of branding, first and foremost, let people know who you are. And then whatever that tagline is, you can come up with that. You know, Chat GPT, I mean, Scott, it's like, if you think about, you know, go to Chat GPT and come up with, you know, some taglines, and maybe, you know, put your bio in there, put some of the things that you stand for. And I have a workshop that I have done on branding and going through, you know, how to create your personal brand. And that's really what it is. It's like branding you. So, you know, you want to forget about the company you're with, even if it's your own company. You know, it's like my company, I started Edu Marketing 3 years ago under the name Edu Marketing before I was Go-To Training. People know me as Ginger Bell. I mean, I could call my company anything and it wouldn't matter, because people know me for who I am and what I do and providing educational marketing services, right? So I think that's a better thing in terms of creating your brand is, what is your brand?
And I love that the fact that you said, and what is your brand, not your company's brand, not the, look, we've all said this a million times. The biggest differentiator of every single lender that is out there is the people that's working for that lender. That's what makes them different. It's not the loan programs. It's not the rate. It's the individual. So that's really what it does come down to.
Yeah. And make it interesting. So Crystal, love you, Crystal. She typed in, she worked as a manager in a mailroom one time, and she signed all of her memos, the male, M-A-I-L, female, the male, female.
You know what?
And
they
it's
all
like, it's
remembered
that
it.
memorable thing, you know,
Yeah.
that's a lot of it. And it doesn't have to necessarily be cutesy or anything like that, but it needs to be something that relates to you, that is your brand. So I think going through that conversation as far as, who is your brand? What do you do? What do you stand for? And it's not rates. Please just take rates off the table, and please take great customer service off the table.
Yeah.
I mean, that is not there.
No. It also extends to your style. There are
Yes,
certain
exactly.
people that I just like. I don't know if I've ever seen Frazier not wear a baseball hat.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever seen Alan Christian without his cowboy hat, or sitting on his motorcycle or something like that. And
Pinky Benson's gonna be wearing pink. That's who she is.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I know a broker, Nick Covington. I think he's gonna murder me if he hears this, but I think it's like best suited to help you with your mortgage needs. And this guy has the snazziest suits. He is always wearing a suit, dressed to the nines, and like that's his image. Anytime you see him, you know he's going to be wearing a suit. Sometimes it's a bow tie, right? There's people that wear bow ties. Your style, your sense of style, you being you, is also another way to differentiate yourself and kind of express your personality. Because I think that's what we're talking about here. Is it's not blending into sales jargon and I've got this and I'm this. It's just showing your personality, being your best you, living your best life, and inviting other people to come along. And I think that's fun. And I think in an increasingly digital and impersonal world, I think that's one of the most important things that you can do is to create a personal experience.
Well, we zoomed in, but when we broaden it back up as this conversation we're talking, because I know we always talk about video and we talk about podcasts and things of that nature. One of the things I often say is it's not your customer's job to remember, it's your job to be memorable.
Yes. I like that.
And when we look at that, one, that's a memorable way of saying something, right? But your name should be memorable. Your tagline should be memorable. Your ask of the customer needs to be memorable. How often? I'm going to need a copy of your W-2s. I'm going to need a copy of your tax returns. Oh my God, you've said this now 1,000 times, so you're boring yourself. If you come up with interesting ways to say on video in front of your customer, anything, how can you become memorable? And this is where I love acronyms and I love rhyming, right? If you ever look at a customer and say, if I don't get your taxes, your loan's getting the axes. I mean, hey, I promise you, they're going to get their tax returns for you. So think about an interesting way to not just communicate your name and your tagline, but the things that are really important that you want to stick with the customer. Find a way to help the customer have it stick with them.
Ginger, I smell a book with you and Steve of the best lines in mortgage. You don't send your taxes, your loan gets the axes.
Yeah, awesome. I like that. And having that, it may sound silly what you're saying, and some people it's like, oh my gosh, I could never do that, but people remember that kind of stuff. So.
But it doesn't have to be silly.
Don't be afraid to be that way. It's like when I worked for Dale Carnegie Training many lifetimes ago. And, in the Dale Carnegie course, we would always teach because people would, it's like, be more. And they're like, I can't be that big. And it's like, and you'd videotape them and they'd watch it back. It's like, oh, that wasn't way what I thought it was going to be. And so sometimes what you think is so out there is not so out there. And so having that. And the other thing is think about it's about creating that customer experience. And so being memorable requires you to create that experience and to provide that in a way that you then become memorable. So, begins with you. So your branding. And then what is the experience for them, bringing that in there. And then I think the other thing to do as well, because I think as originators, we don't think about the team in terms of the branding and the experience. And so sometimes I think opening that up to them as well is very important to do, and being okay with that, to let go of that. It's me, I'm the person. It's like, opening it up to having some others. And I just went through that myself in my business. I didn't realize one of my team members loves doing funny videos, and she's been posting them on Instagram, this whole back and forth conversation with herself of just, funny things. I'm like, why did I never know that? It's like, why aren't you doing that for us? And, my other team members are like, yeah, why aren't you doing this for us? And so it's like, you are so finding out, not the brand and the experience can be more than just you. It can be your team as well.
Speaking of memorable, that was my lesson learned from our podcast last week. When she said, I don't just train the LO, I look at the LOA, I look at the processor, and because all of that is part of the customer experience. That was my big takeaway, is it's not just about you. It is about that team, because not one person does not do it alone. It is a team.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, that is the whole key, is to be able to do that. I think that was Katie that did that. Was that Katie?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
I thought Katie was 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
Okay,
Irene was last week.
Oh,
Irene.
Irene did that. Yes, that was Irene, definitely. Yeah. And I mean, talking about that, it's like, bringing the whole team in and training them and making it memorable. Absolutely. Very, very important. Yep.
All right, so that was my answer. I answered your question first, Ginger. Now I'll be quiet and let the next question go.
Well, I think in terms of, so we've answered as far as being memorable and, making that. So in the name, making it memorable. And then the second thing is, what can they do? So being memorable is number one. The second thing is, our market has been, what would you say? And for those of you who are, listening on the call or on Facebook listening, type into I think the Q&A box is open. I don't know if the chat box is open now. What do you think the market is right now? I would say it's kind of like flat, stagnant, if you would, crystal flat, and it's like the market sucks. Yes, it does. I mean, it's like there's challenges, right? And so it's hard sometimes to get motivated during those challenges. It's hard sometimes to get excited, I think, because most loan originators are high Ds, so they're drivers, and they drive off of being busy all the time. And so having that idleness, I think, can be a challenge. And it's not just for loan originators, it's for your real estate agents as well. And I actually saw a quote this morning, and I can't remember who said it, but it's like, the best action you can take in a non-action market is action. Keep yourself busy, keep going. And I think that's the biggest thing. So, looking for different things, not just doing video. It's like June is homeownership month. So I have an entire 30 days of trivia that are downloadable social media graphics. If you go to junehomeownershipmonth.com, you can get them. I'll give them to you for free. There's actually even a Canva link in there, so you can put them in a Canva and brand them. So doing something different, but I think taking those action items is important, because everything you do right now in a non-movement market will create movement when the market starts moving again. Everything you don't do right now in a non-movement market will create the action that you will get then, which is no movement. So you need to keep moving. Yeah. And I think that's the number one thing. So whether you're doing videos, whether you're doing podcasts, whether you're posting on social, whether you're doing lunch and learns, whether you're doing books, whether you're doing, whatever that is, keep doing it. Keep making those phone calls. I think that's probably the biggest thing in terms of motivation right now for people, which is probably what I think a lot of people are driving for, needing for. And I fall into that too. It's like, and Steve, you're a trainer, you're a speaker. There's times where you need motivation too, and you just you transitioned from, where you were.
Perfect timing.
To start a speaking business, right? But it's like the best time to start too, because now it gives you the opportunity to grow and to refine and to do those kind of things.
Well, two things popped in. First off, I go back to the memorable. And I think one of the things that I do as a speaker is I try to be memorable, and I can draw those analogies and those stories. So you were talking about you still have to have action. What's a shark do? A shark eats, but a shark isn't always eating, but a shark is always swimming to the next meal. right? I mean, and that's sort of the action that we want to take is, okay, right now, we're not eating right now, but we're still swimming along to find where that's going to be and planting those seeds and making that happen. So we're all sharks that are going to be out there. And I don't remember what the second one was, but I was thinking about sharks the whole time you were talking is, oh, I know what it was. I know from me as coaching and speaking, how many times do you say, oh, you need to start doing videos? I'm too busy. Oh, you need to write a book. I'm too busy. Oh, you know what you should do? You should be starting to talk to builders and you should do, oh, I've always wanted to talk to this real estate agent. I'm too busy. Now's the time to do all those things that you were too busy to do yesterday. Start doing those things today. The list is right there for you. You know what you haven't done, but you should have done, but you used an excuse of being too busy. And when you say that you're too busy, it always goes back to this. You're never too busy. That just is not a priority for you right now.
Right.
So you can, whatever it is that you want to get done, you can get it done if you prioritize it. But what you say is, I'm too busy. So you say, no, something else is more important. Well, those other important things are not that important today. So now's the time to do those things that you've always wanted to do.
Yeah. Well, there's a difference between busy and busy work. So
For sure.
That's the thing.
Yeah, the conversations I've been having is exactly along these lines. This is a prospecting market because you think that we're having a hard time understanding this market. Consumers are completely confused about what's going on in this market, and you take advantage of something like June Homeownership Month, and this is a time for building relationships. This is a time for being a thought leader. This is a time for, like Crystal said, reaching out to her real estate agents and seeing if she can help them directly one-on-one with anything. And the people that are too busy looking at the ground, just complaining about the fact that the ground is there, because that's what the situation we're in. The market is what the market is. And it's not interest rates. I'll clue you in on something, because if interest rates drop to 3% tomorrow, there's no inventory. So there are all kinds of, there's always going to be something, but this is the time to build your pipeline, because whoever has the biggest pipeline, when something turns, they're the ones that are going to be so busy, they're not going to know what to do. But everybody that complained that there was nothing to do and they weren't out there prospecting. And what does prospecting mean, really? It's just having conversations. We make a living by having conversations about home ownership. So have those conversations without the expectation of cashing a check, but of building a relationship and then keeping them in your circle, however you do that, whether you have a newsletter or a YouTube channel or a meeting that you go to, in the community or anything like that, you continue to have those conversations when you build those relationships. That is the single most important thing you could be doing in your business right now, because you have all the time in the world to try to explain what's going on in the market to anybody and everybody that will listen. And then when the market turns, who are they going to think of? They're going to say, well, Steve's been telling me this entire time that something's got to give. Like, that's pretty fair. We can't predict what's going to happen in the market, but you can say, something's got to give. And when it does, I'm going to be ready for it. So, and in the meantime, I'm going to tell you what I know.
Well, you keep saying, make those contacts to real estate agents. I'm a big preacher, because you said there's no inventory out there, or Ginger said there's no, I forgot who said that the inventory is low.
Well, I said.
You said, I apologize. If you're not talking to builders right now, I think you're just missing a huge opportunity, because every LO on the planet is talking to every real estate agent on the planet. If you're an LO that's now starting to get in good with certain builders, because where's that inventory going to come from? It's got to come from people starting to build more houses. That's where it has to come from. I got a 275 rate. What does that mean? This house is not getting up there for inventory at any time soon.
Yeah.
So builders and financial planners, because what we keep hearing about is the divide between the middle classes is getting hurt, the lower classes where the lower class is, and the people who are doing well economically are continuing to do well economically. So why are we not talking to whom? To those financial planners who are in touch with those people.
And I mean, start a podcast with your financial planners. You know, if you want to do something to get in touch with them, start a podcast and invite financial planners onto your podcast to talk about what people should be doing right now. I mean, none of us can predict what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen with rates. We don't know what's going to happen with the inventory. The only thing that you can predict is what you're doing right now. And then working through those challenges, I want to hit on a couple of questions. Crystal had posted that she's trying to use this time to offer assistance directly one-on-one to her realtor partners. And I know Crystal has set up that she'll go to their office and record a video with them and things like that. But she said it's like pulling teeth. And so this, you know, and I think that's one of the things as far as the challenges, it's like, what are some things that you can do to overcome that? Because here's the thing, they're going through the same challenges that we are on our side. And so, you know, offering assistance, you know, maybe, and Crystal, maybe it's the video, maybe they don't want to do the video, you know, maybe it's doing a workshop to help them, you know, find different ways to, you know, stand out in this business, to keep in touch with their database, you know, have a conversation like, what can I do to help you? I mean, we're in it together. And again, I'm going to beat this horse all during the month of June, but it is homeownership month. And so I think it's a good opportunity to call your real estate agents. You know, if you guys are real estate agents, know you, don't know you, I would just say, hey, you know, Steve, I see your videos a lot. I know you're out speaking. Just want to let you know, huge fan. Love what you're doing. Don't know if you know it or not, but June is homeownership month. And you know what? We're having a lot of challenges on the mortgage side. I know you're having challenges on the real estate side. Can we sit down and have a cup of coffee and kind of just talk about how we're going to get our community to move the needle? So if you take yourself out of the equation, and I equate it to this, and my son is a 3-palm Eagle Scout, and I've always taught him about giving, and they learn it in scouting. It's very big, but I would teach him when he was young, there's 2 ways to give in life. You can give palm up, where you're expecting something in return, or you can give palm down, where you're truly giving. Now is the time to truly give. Now is the time when you take out of the equation, you know, hey, Steve, I want you to send me some business. I would love to have you get something business, but more than that, I would love both of us to get business. So how can we, you know, create a plan? How can we work this? How can we help our community? I mean, think about those kind of conversations you can have in order to, you know, help people in just home ownership in general. That in my mind is what I see as a win. Because people can tell nobody wants to be sold. Nobody wants to be sold. And so don't sell, solve.
You know, Steve had mentioned talking to builders and, you know, I'm always thinking of crazy stuff. Why not go down to the city planner and the building department and find out if there's permits, find out if there's new subdivisions that are being put in, and then find out who's filing those permits, and then contact those builders and start talking to them. When we talk about prospecting, if you can get in front of a new subdivision that's going to be built in the next year and start talking about it and what kind of houses are going to be built and what price range and what that community is like and what the local businesses are, that's a really good way for you to differentiate yourself. Don't wait till it's already built. Get out there and find out who's trying to build, and maybe have some of those types of conversations. I think all of these is really, really good advice and really good ideas. But in terms of what Crystal said, what I would probably add to that, and I don't want to sound insensitive or mean about that, but if they're not accepting your help, they're not the kind of people you want to work with. Look for young, hungry people We saw this during the mortgage crash. There's a lot of loan officers that came into the mortgage industry in 2008, 2009, and it was trial by fire. There are young, hungry professionals out there trying to break into this, and they're looking at all of us old timers and saying, yeah, get your walker out of the way, man. I'm coming through. Like I've got this. And those are the ones that are looking for support, and they're thinking about video and social media. I don't know exactly how you do that other than going to offices, going to the broker in charge and saying, hey, who's your youngest, hungriest real estate agent? And just say, hey, I have these resources. Is there anything I can help to help you grow your business? Anything I can do to help grow your business? Because nobody's going after the newbies.
Totally agree with that, but I want to throw back to something else Crystal said. They're a little reluctant right now. Here's what you do. Get your list of 10 real estate agents that you do business with right now that say, I'm just not ready to talk on film right now. Go to their office, stand in front of their office and say, in this office here behind me, this is where Ginger Bell works. This is the lesson that I learned from working with Ginger Bell. Boom. So what you're doing is saying how awesome that agent is, but they taught me something, right? And what are they going to do? They're going to broadcast that on their own. And next time you go to them and you say, hi, can we have a conversation? No, I don't want to talk to you. You just put them online. They're going to want to talk to you. But then in the bottom, you say, if there's a lesson that you think I need to learn, let me know. Then you have other real estate agents saying, oh, I want you to talk about me. Here's the lesson I want you to talk about. And what have you just done? Boom, 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 boom.
Fantastic.
I love that. And podcasts are a great way to be able to invite someone on who maybe doesn't want to do video, where you can do a Zoom meeting just like what we do here and ask them questions. So, and I think that they don't know. I find it interesting that real estate agents are uncomfortable doing video and they don't know about AI and podcasts, because I think real estate agents more sales oriented and more marketing oriented than we are on the mortgage side. But I have been, surprised. I'm going to Dallas. As a side note, we're going to close it out. I'm going to be in Dallas actually next week and the following week, and I'm doing a series of workshops for real estate agents for my clients, talking about just that video. And so one of the things I'm going to make sure and ask is, what's holding you back? And what questions do you have? So I will definitely put that out there, because I want to know. I mean, inquiring minds want to know. It's like, why aren't you calling my friend Crystal? I mean, that's the main thing. But, great content, guys. Thank you so much. For those of you who were great as far as answering questions, that's perfect. Because that's what we started this. I mean, we started Mortgage Influencers to be able to facilitate conversations, to help provide you with information, and to hang out with cool people like you and Steve, Scott. So thank you very much, guys. Now, remember, June homeownership starts tomorrow.
Mañana.
Yeah, so good. Okay, we'll see you guys next week. Thank you.
Have fun at Papa Do's in Dallas.
I will. Thanks.